And welcome to the January 15th, 2025 meeting of the Executive Committee. My name is Sandy McKee and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight we are joined by District Manager Jesus Perez, and the meeting is called to order at 6:31 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed for the entire time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you may raise your questions or comments. Any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature in Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, we don't have any tonight, but you can raise your questions, any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. CB6 Assistant Secretary Jerry Weinstein will take minutes tonight. We will now take attendance by roll call. Jesus will conduct the roll call.
All right. Majed Abdul Samad. Majed. Neil Barkley.
Present.
Thank you. Ellie Barroso.
Present.
Thank you. Stuart Desser.
Present.
Thank you. B. Disman.
Present.
Thank you. Jason Homowitz.
Present.
Thank you. Justin Goldberg.
Present.
Thank you. John Keller.
Present.
Thank you. Nadine Kalani.
Present.
Thank you. Anton Melman. Present. Thank you. Sandy McKee.
President.
Thank you. Rich Mintz. One more time, Rich Mintz. Okay, I don't hear anyone. Kevin O'Keefe.
Present.
Thank you. Livia Shrednick.
Present.
Thank you. Gabe Truzo.
He cannot make it this evening.
Jerry Weinstein.
Present.
All right. All right, with 11 of 16 members duly present, we do have quorum.
Okay. The agenda for tonight's meeting is reflected on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The meetings from the November 20th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no objections, the minutes from the November 20th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Ground rules for a meeting. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Committee members unable to attend it in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will recognize you. It is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions. Chair's report. Excuse me. Jesus, Anton, and Seligman and I attended the OCM meeting, which was last Thursday, and gave testimony on the application for 820 Second Avenue. We actually met the OCM representative who works with community boards, and there'll be more follow-up to that at the bulk meeting this month. Interestingly, many of the speakers noted that they do not want the proximity rule reduced or waived. They're small business owners, they don't want competition. I thought that was an interesting take. Also, it's a really small community and it's very supportive. I highly recommend watching the meeting. A lot of people looking for their license and not being approved. And apparently the lawsuit has caused some ripples in the whole process. But yeah, a lot of heartache in the room. It was interesting to see. I received a call from Ghetto and DeMilly regarding the casino bid at the Soloviev site. They noted that the bids are due in June, July of this year. It's $1 million fee to submit. And then the community advisory committee will review the applications, and the timeline that they understood was 270 days. They wanted to know if we heard any support for the casino. To the best of my knowledge, we have not had anyone from the community.
So who was that reached out?
It's, they're the lobbyist for the Solovia group. And if there was, pushback from the community looking for more information, or if we had a lot of people come in supporting it, we would certainly consider talking to them. But otherwise, we've got the information on our website, and it's pretty extensive. It's a good description.
Do we have a position specifically either way on the casino?
We have?
Do we? I don't know.
Yes, we have 2 resolutions.
Okay.
That very specifically say we do not want a casino in the district, and then specifically for the civilians. So for the DOT foiling, very simple request from the DOT, so we're gonna try and follow up on that, but it doesn't seem appropriate to make us foil, just to answer some questions that we had from another city agency. And tonight I wanted to discuss this portion of the bylaws, and it was noted on the agenda for next month, but B is here, and it's something we've discussed before. Unless time sensitive, draft resolutions presented should be provided at least 3 days in advance of the board meeting. The same standard applies to resolutions presented at committee meetings. And one of the things that's come up is this means that sometimes an agenda item will be discussed multiple times because the resolution wasn't written at the time it was brought up. And sometimes that it seems to elongate the discussion and bring out issues that people have, especially if it's a presentation by someone in the public, they have to come back several times. So I asked B to be here and sort of give us a bit of feedback as to, how this was discussed in the bylaws meeting and what the intention was for this being added.
Thanks, Sandy. So there was a lot of discussion about resolutions being presented at the day of the meeting and not having the opportunity for people to review it, get comments back. And it was felt that unless it was time sensitive, you should really have a resolution to give the 3 days, because people are working, they're doing other things, they don't get to look at it immediately. Now, it was never the intent of our discussion that something be discussed twice. So my comment to you about discussions twice, you could have a brief discussion, or if you're not going to get it within 3 days, you just schedule it for the following meeting if it's not time sensitive. But there really was the very strong feeling that we were voting on things being presented right at the meeting, and it didn't give time for thought or forethought of what we were doing.
And I think the issue is if someone does a presentation, there's a discussion, a position that we should move forward with a resolution, but the resolution isn't written yet. That's
Right,
when
so that doesn't have to be written until the next meeting. If it's not time sensitive, a lot of the stuff that we see is not time sensitive. So you should really give it deliberate thought. And when you have the discussion, you also have the opportunity for other people weighing in on it. So just presenting it the day of the meeting, it doesn't work for committee members or members of the public that read it.
Jason?
So actually, I'm very happy to bring this up because I was planning to bring this up myself in my report. In transportation specifically, I've been noticing this be an issue when we're following that procedure where we have a presentation, we write up the resolution for the next meeting. The problem I'm seeing is that we have mostly people didn't attend the meeting, and they're sort of relitigating. Oh, wait, what was this? Why did we make this decision? I don't agree with this. And now all of a sudden, it's less of the people who were involved in the meeting. It's more of this all of a sudden, oh, this is news to me. Why are we doing this? I don't know about this. And we're basically relitigating the resolution and the discussion because it's coming up again and because they missed the original meeting.
Is that a matter of talking to committee members and explaining that
Well, I don't blame them necessarily. I kind of understand that they weren't a part of this decision and this discussion, and now all of a sudden they're being asked to vote yes or no. They didn't have a chance to give their opinion, and so this is then their opportunity to provide an opinion. My thought on resolving this, short of changing the bylaws, was coming to the meetings with like some version prepared so that we can vote on it in the first meeting. So we have a presentation from the FDNY. I would come in with a draft reso, either one in support of it or some sort of skeleton reso, so that we could vote on it that evening.
Unfortunately, the perception from the public is that we've already made up our minds.
Yeah, I appreciate that is potentially
And
problematic.
especially in transportation, these tend to be,
Although we're not circulating the resolutions to the public, are we? Normal?
no, but we're showing them at the meeting.
Right, yes.
So there is
agree.
another way of doing for people that don't attend. The meetings are on YouTube. You can actually get and have people that don't attend look at the presentation and stuff. So they come in prepared.
But it's not, that's part of the problem, that they're not coming in prepared, but I think even if they were prepared, people who weren't there didn't have a chance to comment, and so now that's their opportunity to comment is when we're voting on the resolution. And I also don't think there's really any good way around that, like, I think it's appropriate that they're commenting then. It's a consequence, I think, of how we have this set up.
Stu,
So first of all, I'm substantially responsible for this, so
You are, and I didn't mention your name. Notice that.
I appreciated that, but I take responsibility. And the issue that I had was we wouldn't even have a draft of a resolution in a meeting. Someone would say, okay, this is basically the gist of what we're gonna do. And then we vote on the gist, and then it turned out that there was the text of a resolution, and I didn't know I voted for that. So that was the fundamental problem. I don't know that 3 days is necessary, but I do think it's appropriate to have a day to see it. I don't think it's a problem to draft a reso in advance that you can then modify, because at least you have a fundamental idea of what's going on. And I have no, if somebody doesn't come to a meeting, and I understand there's reasons we don't, we have minutes and we have video, and I think you do need to be prepared.
Well, again, I don't think necessarily people are coming in that they're not prepared, or I maybe mispositioned that.
Well, that's fine.
It's two things.
It's fair to have a subsequent discussion. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But then my issue is we have the same topic rolls over. The meetings are extended. So we're talking about an issue in 2 meetings instead of 1 meeting now. Maybe that's okay.
I think that's transparency also. And even though we had a long discussion on the bylaws, there's no way of getting around getting something, the thrust of something, so that the committee members have a chance to read it before they come to a committee meeting. Otherwise, making it up as we go along, and you don't really know what the resolution is going to be like.
Jerry, did you?
A quick thought that may just help by 5%, including a timestamp in meeting notes about resolution discussion. So that somebody could zero in, okay, I'm not gonna listen to an hour and a half, but I care about a bike lane.
Well, frankly, if you're on the committee, you should be listening to an hour and a half.
Also,
I mean, for the public, that's different, but.
the timing is problematic because the minutes will end up being published around the same time as
The next
the
meeting.
next meeting. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it's something we resolve this evening, but it's maybe something to think about because, we don't want to drag out issues, and sometimes you don't know it's time sensitive until after the meeting, so. I guess it's just something if we could, think of a way to address this particular issue. Let's see. I guess for committee meetings, if the chair isn't present for a committee meeting, I think it really is important to have the chair or the vice chair be here. Because the public does come to some of these meetings, and if the chair or the vice chair isn't here, we're asking the board staff to run the meeting, which is not fair. You know, so if you as a chair can't make it, just make sure the vice chair can make it, or someone is assigned to take over that responsibility. And yeah, just, it looks bad to the public if we can't man a person a meeting. And I guess one last thing, if you're requested directly for a statement on CB business, if you can let the office know. So ahead of time, just so there's a record of it, so we kind of get a documentation. And I know some people reach out directly. They know someone on the board, so. Just figure out. All right. Jesus Perez, our district manager, is going to give you.
Right, I guess just a quick clarification, sort of a bit of housekeeping. We got this from one of the committees not too long ago regarding quote unquote remote meetings. And so I shall put this to bed once and for all. The current incarnation of the open meetings law does not allow for entirely remote meetings. End of story. It allows people who have extraordinary circumstances to attend remotely. Those people do not count for a quorum. And you have to go through whatever process your respective body sets up, be it OCM, rather CCB or City Planning Commission or CB6 to avail yourself of this extraordinary circumstance. It also allows people that suffer from temporary or permanent disability to attend remotely. Those people do count for quorum. But it is not, even if by some miraculous chance that everyone on a committee is temporarily or permanently disabled and everyone attends on Zoom, that does not mean that the meeting is remote. There still has to be an opportunity for the public and a place for the public to come and view in person. That's what the law says. So there was some confusion, and I just want to make sure that that is cleared up. And if there are any questions, I know I always get shaking heads and then it never seems to sink in afterwards. So if there are any questions, speak now or forever. Oh no, I'll just say it as many times as it takes. If there are any questions, you have an opportunity now to ask. All right, maybe it's not good.
All right, next on our agenda is, Jesus, was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I'll leave it there.
Okay. Sorry. There's a resolution, a time-sensitive resolution that came to the health committee, but there was not a quorum. So this is a resolution to request support for New York City Health and Hospitals Bellevue and state and city budgets. And that it was maybe, Jesus, can we put it up on the screen for people? It was sent out, and we had Karen. Yes, and Karen Moore presented this at the Health and Human Environment Committee. So if we do have any questions, she's certainly available. We mentioned that tertiary care was not so clear.
I want to correct myself. While I understand it grammatically,
Yeah.
is there a legal definition for what a tertiary care hospital is New York State?
Yes, there is, and Karen's going to give us the, I'm sorry. B has to.
Opposed to an adjective.
B will
Yeah,
get- Or sorry, do you want to ask the question now?
Why don't you answer the question about tertiary and then I'll ask my question.
Okay, thank you. Karen, are you able to answer that question for us?
She's muted.
Karen, can you unmute yourself?
And yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not sure there's a legal definition, but by convention, the tertiary care hospital is one that handles the most complex and serious medical conditions. So that can range from organ transplantation cancer surgery, rare diseases. To put it in perspective, we know what primary care is. That's going to your doctor to get your blood pressure taken. The secondary care is community hospitals, and Bellevue is a community hospital. Elmford is a community hospital, and indeed, all of the other hospitals in New York City Health and Hospitals are community hospitals. Therefore, because Bellevue is a tertiary care with sophisticated technological and medical knowledge, any serious illnesses in the Health and Hospitals Corporation get shipped to Bellevue. There is a joke that Jimmy Fallon almost ripped his thumb off. He got sent to Beth Israel. And after about 20 minutes, they realized they couldn't sew his finger back on, so they sent him up to Bellevue. So a tertiary care hospital is the highest level of care currently in the States. And companion tertiary care hospitals are NYU, Cornell Weill, Columbia Presbyterian. They're generally associated with their medical centers, associated with teaching hospitals.
Thank you. And B, you had a question.
Yeah, so let me just say Bellevue is also the trauma center in New York City. So it even handles more complex cases. So
Yes.
in reading the whereas, mine is basically a fiscal question and a reimbursement question.
Right.
So in reading the paragraph, it says 60% of the people that use Bellevue are Medicaid patients, okay?
Right.
And if you look at the costs for Medicaid over the years, first during the pandemic, you weren't allowed to remove anyone from Medicaid. So as a result, the cost of Medicaid went up. In subsequent years, I don't have the figures in front of me right now, but I think the last year, the cost of Medicaid went up to a 20% increase or a little more. So I had two questions. One is, in recommending this increase, do we know what percentage, where we're looking at, and what percentage increase in cost would there be? And also, because Medicaid is a sharing system, it's not just the state and the city, the federal government also gives reimbursement. Would this be without any federal government reimbursement?
What this resolution is asking is for support from CB6 to increase Bellevue funding in light of, number one, the larger uncertainty regarding what the federal government is going to do, and number two, Mount Sinai's potential closing. So all of those, it's pretty accepted that all of those patients are going to go to Bellevue. Now, Bellevue handles 97,000 ER visits a year. Mount Sinai handles 70,000. Well, they're all going to go to Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai has a strong behavioral health program. Well, they're going to go to Bellevue because that's where you send behavioral health issues to Bellevue because they're problematic, because they have a low reimbursement rate, because for many reasons. So we are asking for support for increased funding for Bellevue. We are not specifying from the state and the city government, from the local electeds, we are not specifying that it should come from increasing Medicaid rates. That is a perennial ask for health and hospitals. We're just simply saying, hey, Bellevue's here. It's absorbing almost everything from Beth Israel. The census is over 100%. That means there's more patients than there are beds in there, so then you put the patients in hallways or you keep them in the ER in a corner until something comes up. Wait times for outpatient visits and the ER room have increased so that the walkout rate at the emergency room has also increased because people can't wait as long as it takes. So we're not specifying where the funding should come from. That's a pretty political decision, and that's a budgetary decision based within the context of the whole city and state budgets. We're just saying Bellevue's undergoing a strain right now, and we're seeking support. In addition, so go ahead.
So I was going to say, B, I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion because the initial resolution did ask for increase in Medicare. But that's going to be discussed later on at the committee. So this is really, it's basically, yes, we want to support Bellevue. We're not saying that it's through an increase in Medicaid.
So has the resolve changed from what I saw before?
So if you go to the last resolved,
There's only one resolved.
there's only one, and it asks for additional funding.
At Bellevue Community Board 6 supports NYC Health and Hospitals Bellevue in the request for additional funding. We haven't specified an amount. We're just saying, hey, we're just looking for your support for additional funding. It used to be that every year, and we're asking for this in time for Lobby Day and the Bellevue Legislative Breakfast, to which you were all invited. It used to be before COVID, Health and Hospitals would rent 3 transport buses and take everybody up to Albany, and they walk around the Capitol and talk to all of their legislators. Since COVID, it's become virtual. And instead of the whole Health and Hospitals going up as a group, it's now virtual per hospital. So therefore, we are now looking for support from our local electeds. And that's why you haven't seen us asking for, support before, because we were Health and Hospitals was directly up in Albany. Well, now Health and Hospitals doesn't cover the waterfront, looking at hospitals individually.
So Karen, can I just ask Sandy, if I could just ask Karen one more question? Because Karen, I dealt with this on the federal level, so forgive my questions.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
The one question I have, if you have additional people coming to Bellevue, aren't you making the assumption that these additional people will come with Medicaid coverage? So they will cover those costs, or you're making the assumption that additional people will come without any type of coverage at all?
So there have been 56 births from asylum seekers who do not have health insurance. But really, I don't want to say the problem. The beauty of Medicaid is that it provides something.
Right.
The problem that, the challenge with Medicaid is that it only reimburses anywhere from 54 to 70% of costs. So every year, Bellevue, if they were fully reimbursed, they would have made another $850 million. But because it was Medicaid instead of commercial insurance, they were out the $850. So then they scramble and try to find money elsewhere. So it's kind of a perennial situation for the safety net hospitals. And in my opinion, Bellevue does a really stellar job in utilizing whatever resources they have. But with this Mount Sinai potential closing, since it's not closed yet, it does put a real strain on Bellevue. So we're just saying, hey, let's pay attention to Bellevue this right now.
Do we have, Kevin?
You had mentioned Lobby Day. There is some timeliness here. I just want to make sure, as Karen well knows, February 26th is Lobby Day. And the legislative breakfast is March 7th. And these are the 2 biggest soapboxes really that the hospital has to amplify what it wants the electeds to do. So that's why this is something that to show our support for those 2 major soapboxes.
Right. I tried to introduce this at the December health meeting, but it was none. So we went January. But if we wait for the February meeting, it's after the date. Right.
So
it won't be acted upon.
Right.
So I apologize for the time, the time sensitivity, but I hope you'll consider it regardless.
Are there any other questions, excuse me? If not, we'd like to vote on this. So we will now take a vote on the resolution to request support for New York City Health and Hospital Bellevue and state and city budgets by roll call. When your name is called, please answer aye, nay, abstain, or not.
Am I
All
supposed
right.
to hang up?
Well, we're gonna vote, yes, so. we
Yeah,
don't-
so I hang up, right?
Well,
No.
you can stay on. You can listen to the vote, that's fine.
Okay.
I realize.
Majed Abdul Samad. I'm not hearing anything. Neil Barkley,
In favor.
thank you. Elvie Barroso,
In favor.
thank you. Stuart Desser,
Favor?
thank you. B. Disman,
In favor?
thank you. Jason Pomowitz.
In favor.
Thank you. Justin Goldberg.
In favor.
Thank you. John Keller.
In favor.
Thank you. Nadine Kalani.
In favor.
Thank you. Anton Malner.
In favor.
Thank you. Sandy McKee.
In favor.
Thank you. Rich Mintz.
Are you in favor?
Thank you. Kevin O'Keefe.
In favor.
Thank you. Livia Shrednick.
In favor.
Thank you. Gabe Turzo is not here. Jerry Weinstein.
In favor.
Thank you. With 14 votes in favor, it is unanimous. This reso passes and moves on to full board in February.
Okay, thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay. we're
Thank
now
you,
going-
thank you, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna hang up, but thank you. Bye.
Great. We'll now move on to our committee agendas. So we're starting off with transportation.
All right, so transportation. Yes, we'll be hosting DOT on 34th Street, busway, bus priority improvements. We got a preview of this meeting last week. They're very early stages on like what the possibilities are. Not really like an actual plan for 34th Street, but they're gonna talk to us about how they're gonna put together a plan for 34th Street. And they're looking for some early feedback. For the record, we already have a reso supporting a busway. I guess we'll see if there's aptitude for something else in that reso. Yeah, so we have that, then we've got the 25th between First and FDR Service Road, which somebody spoke in full board about last week.
And Jason, just so you know, that has come up perennially, probably every year in the transportation committee. Well, maybe not in the
not that
last,
recently.
in the
but,
last year, but it has been a problem in the community. for a
Yeah,
long time.
It's definitely, I've heard of it coming up before. I don't think we've discussed it in the committee.
We
every-
have.
Okay, well,
Before
maybe not
your
every
time.
year anyway, yeah. So I have a proposal,
It was discussed.
that specific proposal?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, well, let's talk later then.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we wanted to discuss that intersection regardless.
So, but you might just keep it open-ended for now.
Got it.
'Cause it's easy to say no.
No to that specific proposal. Okay, yeah, let's catch up, but yeah,
Okay,
we may
okay.
change the details of it. It makes sense. And then we've got voting on a reso that we didn't get out in time with the 3-day rule. This is now unfortunately the third time we're discussing this reso. But hopefully just voting on it. And asking for changes on the 20th Street and 18th Street and Avenue C. And then lastly, trying to get a policy around handling requests for changes to street parking. This is a follow-up to the reso we had on the residential request for no parking in front of the building in Seventh Place. We have a reso that I presented to the committee, a draft form last week for sort of early feedback. People seem to be generally aligned. There was a couple changes I want to make, yeah, we'll have to discuss it in more detail and vote on potential Basically outlines what information we want an applicant to provide to us, how we'll evaluate those decisions. It makes it clear that this is something that you can ask for from the committee and how you would go about doing so.
I see we have 7 questions. It's okay. All right. Next we have parks, landmarks and cultural affairs. Neil.
Hello, so we have, let's see, yep, we have the report and then the chair's report, all new business. So we may not have a meeting in February if there isn't anything urgent that comes up. I would say one thing that we currently are working on with the committee, and this could be something that's really good. We've reached out to the Epiphany library on 23rd. Because we wanted to learn about some of the programs that they have for our retirees and our seniors. It's a demographic that we haven't hit yet in the committee. And so we have reached out. We would like to know about some of the programs there at the library in general, but also specifically for retirees and seniors. So we're waiting to hear back. We're going to work to have someone from the library to call in and explain some of the programs, but we're waiting to hear back. That's where we are right now.
And I know you talked about maybe asking the Landmarks and Preservation Commission to come. They presented at Borough Board, they did offer to do that, if that would be.
Yeah, that would be,
Too fast, we could ask them.
Well, let's, I can connect with Brian. Yeah,
Okay.
let's see what they say. For
Okay.
sure. That'd be great.
All right, public safety and sanitation.
So, things are unsettled. We're 3 weeks out and, that's probably more reflection on my life than anything, but the agenda item that shows are the shed issues, and there's two channels that we're looking at for the sheds. One is just the sheds that are up for way too long, sidewalk sheds, and the other are the protective fences and scaffolding put up in parks. I think you all heard at the last full board meeting, I asked the mayor's office for some help getting answers from the city on the 2 sheds in other buildings it has sheds in front of. So I don't know that we're gonna have answers in time for that, and I'd rather actually get answers. In fact, one of the letters we sent to a private owner did result in a response, which was, I think, interesting and useful. So I don't want to rush that, and I haven't had enough discussions on the parks one yet. So Sandy, unless you want us to push it now.
I'd love to push it.
So I will have a discussion
With
DPR, which I didn't, with the number you gave me today, and we'll see about that. We have other issues that have been on the agenda. I don't know that I want to raise them right now. Last month, the city council had the hearings on bikes being licensed. There were 2 intros, 606 and 1131. One of them is just, we want bikes licensed, and the other was, let's look at this and look at what's more effective. So I'm probably going to survey the committee members and ask if they want to bring this topic up next month, or if we can put it off until the council actually does something. And then lastly, the more interesting, timely issue is that Department of Sanitation is insisting that the bids, the business improvement districts, don't just dump, when they empty the public trash bins, they don't just dump it on the street, the bags on the street. They go into the containers. And the bids are unhappy about this because they would have to buy, $500,000 worth of containers. So there's a hearing 4 days after our meeting that DSNY will have, where the bids are probably going to talk. If we can get someone from DSNY to our meeting before that, I think it might be useful because we're more likely to have a conversation, whereas the DSNY hearing is basically going to be one way. So we're going to look into this. I don't know what will happen. And that is all I have to say now.
Okay, we still have a little time to solidify. Chair?
That's the question which may necessitate me just attending your next meeting. Is there discussion about how sheds might be imagined for next summer?
For next summer?
Yes, going forward.
Oh, well,
Oh, like, you have to be clear, like there's sheds and there's, what do you mean by sheds?
To be clear, meaning what we took down, the
Oh,
street
no, that's a
furniture.
totally different issue.
Okay,
Totally,
okay.
different, yeah.
So just to be clear about the agenda, we're in a holding pattern, so that's right. That's the effect I have.
shock and awe.
Just to be clear, I wanted to do one of those buttons that ejects. It wasn't in the budget. It wasn't in the budget. This agenda stays as is, but unpublished until further notice from you.
Yes,
Okay, and it might stay this way, and it might change completely.
yes.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay, budget and government affairs, Mad.
Awesome. So the first one is the response to the budget requests. We should be getting that shortly. So that will be like honestly the primary focus of this meeting. So that would be the key point one. And Jesus, I see your comments, so I haven't read those, but I'm sure we can tweak those and basically figure those out. The second one intentionally wasn't read. Something we could discuss with public safety of like how we want to sort of tackle those together. We were talking last meeting about bail reform and tort reform. They are related but separate topics. So I wanted to sync up with public safety on sort of how we want to approach those. I think it's worth sort of joining forces, definitely, because bail reform is more a public safety issue, but just wanted to be aligned with them as we approach on sort of how we think about it. I think the other thing is just like reading the recent news, unclear how much the electeds are sort of thinking about this topic, but it's something we want to sort of at least like put a stake in the ground of like how we think about it and how these should proceed when there is sort of more political bill for them.
Oh, so there's something else gonna be on the public safety agenda next month.
We might not, like, just to be candid, we might not discuss it next time because like the responses will probably take up a lot of it, but wanted to put it out there so we could talk about it. We can talk about it offline, but it's something we were talking about last committee meeting, which we actually had just 2 days ago.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Okay,
All right, Nad, those comments, essentially, it's very likely that by the time your meeting rolls around, that the citywide statement of needs for city facilities will be out. We have 90 days to reply to that report. You may recall that last year, your committee replied and voted on a resolution for the first time in several years, and it was a pretty good one. I followed up on that resolution, and it does look like some of our asks will be accommodated, like the easier ones, not the more impactful ones. But, you know, if this report comes out and assuming a bunch of new projects have found their way into this district, it could just be a matter of sort of dusting off the old one, updating it a little bit, and you know, passing a revised version of it, articulating the things that have not been done yet and doing that. You do have to have a public hearing on this, but it could be maybe that the public hearing happens in March. But your April meeting will be after full board, so it'll be too late unless the public hearing happens at full board, for example. And I don't anticipate anybody actually coming to that. So that's an option if you're pressed for time.
Yeah, why don't we put them both on the February, just we can put it second, because I think that does take precedence over sort of our broader issues, and then we can sort of play it from there. But I think let's see when we get that report, the facility report, and we can go from there. But let's put it on the agenda for February.
Okay, so the discussion and the public hearing for the February meeting.
Let's do that. Yeah, I mean, I know it kind of varies when it comes out, but I think we might as well just do it, the public hearing then as well.
Okay. All right.
okay. Health and environment, Elvie.
So we have We have a presentation by the NYU Langone Health on CPR and defibrillation, and a second topic, which is on cardiovascular, that will be tied on that topic. So, can you add that?
And then there's a third one, discussion of.
That's still under the first one from NYU Langone. Then we will continue to discuss on the lead pipes, because one of our committee members suggested to write a reso, but it's still open for discussion. And the third one is about discussion of the 2025 Statement of District Needs for Healthcare and Human Services.
Can you explain what's the presentation on CPR and defibrillation?
That's exactly the question I had, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was not explained to us. They just said to present an early CPR and defibrillation. And so what I suggested is for them to present cardiovascular disease that is tied on the CPR and defibrillation.
Is this like explaining what their facilities are, or it's quite often NYU, it's,
Or public,
yeah,
Public education or sales.
yeah.
Sure, yeah. You know, we just got the email today.
Yeah, maybe you wanna, yeah, question a little bit.
I'll have Brendan reach out to Rebecca.
But I suggested for them to
Yeah, if they're
show
gonna, if they're gonna advertise.
the cardiovascular disease tied on the CPR and defibrillation, because I don't know if, are they going to demonstrate how to
Or if
use
they're gonna
CPR and defibrillation, or it's just what's available, the resources that is available?
Yeah, are they gonna talk about training people? I mean,
No, I
Are you
don't think,
volunteering, LV?
I don't think it's a training, no, it's, you know, training takes about 4 or 5 hours.
so for the
of
record, I'm
CPR
for
training, so
CPR.
they're- Yeah.
We could pass a resolution and finish.
questions about.
Take it as a case by case.
We'll reach out to NYU and ask
Yeah.
for clarity. If it looks more like, this is how great we are at these things, maybe we not do that. And then if it,
Well,
My
that's
only
why
concern-
I asked them to
Yeah, to add
do
something.
cardiovascular that will be tied into that CPR.
my only concern is, apart from that, assuming it's not like a PR thing, is that if it is just completely informational or educational or something, it seems like it might run the risk of being a bit dry. And attendance is a struggle at this committee already. And I wonder, is this the way to lure folks in?
Yeah, if it's, we just need to, if it's going to be a really interesting discussion, that's when we need to beef up the description. So let's find out, yeah,
All right, I'll ask Brendan to reach
Yeah.
out.
okay. All right, housing and homelessness, Rich.
Yes, so we're not meeting in January because we couldn't get a quorum on any of the available alternate dates. We're currently polling for an alternate date for February, and I'm gonna defer discussion of our agenda until I can talk to my vice chairs. We've got 6 weeks, so.
Okay, land use and waterfront, I got a text from Majed that he's at work. And Gabe is at work as well. So, and just, I got a call from EDC and I told them there was quite a bit of feedback about their, our resolution on the parking garage. And so they said, oh, well, they would come back and talk to us again about the issue. But they do, I let them know it was not a slam dunk, you know, it's not.
And I didn't quite understand, I mean, I understand that sometimes you have to vote for something to have a voice.
Mm.
But we could have also voted against it and explained why, so what's exactly the logic? No, you made a case at the, yes, you did.
I don't think you did.
Are you sure it wasn't some other brown person?
I mean, if we voted against this, but we expressed the basis for our vote, would we have less influence than voting for it? And basically raising the same sorts of objections?
Well, I must say that I attended the land use meeting, and so I heard the discussion where it's not just the parking garage, it's also the marina. And the parking garage, it's now mandated in law that if you have a parking garage, you have to update it. So it's a more complicated situation than just saying no. Like there are some nuances involved. And I think the committee thought better to repair the building and decide what to do with it. The other option is to have it fall in the water, which the city's not gonna do.
Or disassemble it.
Or disassemble it. But at the same time, if you disassemble it, you wanna know what you're gonna put there. So, and tearing it down probably costs more than repairing it and reusing it. So I think that was part of it.
The missing elements were the numbers, and maybe that's
Yeah.
great to hear the EDC is coming back, so we can really do some, as was mentioned in the committee, the cost benefit analysis, so that we don't know what numbers, we don't even know how much revenue they bring in from their parking part every year.
And I don't think the revenue is what's driving it. It's the law. You have to fix it. And every parking garage in the city is going through this, so.
Well,
if
not
they
just
wanna-
that, though, the revenue question, I think, extends to that whole area. There's also the under the FDR portion that's like
Absolutely.
unclear on the value proposition.
When we discussed under the FDR the last time, they did have some numbers.
Oh, okay, is there?
They may have had them for that garage, but it wasn't documented in our resolution.
And as we've discussed, EDC could not answer whether construction would be happening during school hours with units next door. That's a concern to a lot of parents.
Yeah, so there's definitely more discussion has to happen. So I don't know if they're going to come. When is land use?
Land use is February 24th. This is just sort of it's been there for a little while,
Yeah.
so, January is not settled either, so I guess we'll have to settle it with, Majed offline.
Okay. Because yes, Spark is moving forward, so. And I know they wanted to discuss traffic issues. There's in the draft EIS, there's a lot of unmitigated traffic issues that nobody seems to know.
Can I pontificate on why I think what to answer your question about why I think there was a feeling that we needed the best resolution of voter support? It sounded like it was time sensitive. I don't know if that is the case, or that's how, I think it was Kyle who said that we should pass this resolution so we have a voice. Which implied to me to say that like we didn't pass this resolution tonight.
It was another brown person.
If we didn't pass a resolution tonight.
It's the second time I've been mistaken for Kyle by a member.
Oh my gosh.
Then we would lose the opportunity to provide a voice. Is that correct? I wasn't sure if that was,
To be honest, I don't know.
yeah. Cause I think we could have still had a voice in rejecting the resolution and passing a new resolution with a different perspective. Is my understanding of how that all.
That's what Kyle meant parliamentarily, is that if you defeat a resolution, then you're essentially you have nothing to say.
Right.
You then have to replace it with something if in fact you want to say something. Yeah, but replacing something on the fly, especially on an issue that has complexities and contours and stuff like that, can get tricky.
Yeah, it would have had to go back to.
One of the issues I had was, somebody had pointed out, that, well, look at the headline. The headline says that we're, basically against the garage, but you're saying is pay no attention, to the words behind the headline. I know, you're spending at least $12 million and you're saying it's law, but is it $12 million or do you just have to fix it to then fall down and maybe not have any cars in there? I just felt that it was really clunky. Sorry.
And the $12 million is for the entire project. It's not.
If they want to make it all levels for car parking.
No, it's to fix the
Oh,
marina.
right, but
and
the
the-
marina, but.
And then the bulkhead and other.
Right, but the garage part, they're gonna make it into a garage, so that if you wanna have it as an open little island type experience, you're not gonna be able to do that if it's blocking your view of the water.
Well, They're repairing the garage that's there.
Okay, so they're gonna have, you're not gonna be able to see the water from the road.
One thing, I don't drive, but the EDC said, do not park your car on the lowest level.
Don't park your car where?
On the lowest level of the garage.
The higher level is better?
They did say in committee that chunks of, they've been marking off certain, slots of parking in there because chunks of concrete are falling from the ceiling.
They said if the water rises and it floods, they would not recommend parking in the lower level.
But also that's where the chunks of,
Concrete are falling.
anyway, and Majid's not here, so,
All right, we'll confirm his agenda offline.
okay, youth and education.
Welcome, everybody. I am here in an interim basis, but I hope to continue for a while. We want to have a robust general discussion at the next meeting. There was some unsettled business on when the next meeting is. I know we've gone back and forth. I would like to have it this month. Because I think we can have enough of a general discussion to fill it in. There are also some other issues that came up, and I wanted to talk to Sandy because it's Spark related. I don't want to overstep the committee's boundaries. But EDC starting to talk a little bit more about the high school that's going to be part of this. A lot of questions. Who gets to be in that high school? What's the curriculum? They said they're going to have a STEAM center, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Okay, but what does that mean? It's going to be a STEAM high school? We really need to have a better understanding of what EDC is doing without telling us.
And definitely, they should be able to talk more about it because they're designing the school right now. So.
They did say that they're leaning on the Research Triangle High School in Durham, North Carolina as a model because they have the Triangle Research Park there and they try to tap in and have internships with the companies there and all. But that's great, but that was just 2 sentences they said about that.
Yeah, and also we've gotten feedback from the community. They want to know is that people from our community get to go to that.
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Who gets to go there?
Yeah. So
And how? And what's the calling process for admission?
if that's on the agenda, I mean, we can certainly reach out to EDC to get them to have, but I don't know if that's February meeting.
Well, January we're shooting for, if that's still.
You told us to cancel it.
I said that I'm willing to, and then I had another discussion about it, about a robust general discussion. If we're all comfortable with waiting until February, I'm fine with that. There's nothing that's timely. I'm raring to get going, that's all.
And was there a December meeting?
There was a December meeting. There's only one hanging issue, which may not come back, and it was about a bicycle program. It got a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And just one, this would be a DOE school, right? A New York City
Yes.
school.
Great question.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I mean,
It is.
we could talk all, I mean, I'm happy to.
In
reach
theory,
out.
I think it is, but we're
Find out.
starting to understand that maybe this is gonna start developing in a way that we don't have any community input on. We'd love to.
They've told us it's part of the school system. And they're looking for, we're looking for 3K seats, so
Oh, they're
that's
gonna
also,
put 3K in there too, 3K and 3K.
that's the goal. So,
And all the way up to high school. That's offline. We should talk about.
Again, great questions for the meeting.
Yeah, I want to talk to you after.
okay, so, I always think it's good to have a meeting if possible, because it's the committee's been in flux. So, and, I also was encouraging people to look back for last year's resos. It's the beginning of the year. It's a good time to sort of like, what did we do last year? Do we need to follow up? So that's something definitely committees could do as part of their chair's report or older new business.
But will you send out information in advance about the Spark?
They'll probably only come up at the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, as far as,
We can ask questions. We'll send out a series of questions.
I don't expect to have EDC. I don't know if we want them.
No, I
Discuss the
meant present the committee members with some background before showing up at the meeting.
As much background as we can get out of
EDC.
what's ED, yeah.
And of course, everybody's familiar with Spark because we've had many resolutions.
Just as a tip off, does Andrew Kimball have a state of the state like everyone else this month?
Is
It's a good question. If so,
I'll look.
let's,
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
so
see
we're
if
gonna
that can
have
be
a
addressed.
meeting? But when
again,
is-
and sorry, to be coy about, that cancellation. I just,
I need to talk-
started getting
we
feedback.
interpreted it as a cancellation, so I'll have to ask Brian if he's already informed the committee that it's been canceled.
I don't think so.
Okay, if he hasn't, then it's.
Okay, so can we agree that if it has been canceled, we'll ramp back up in February? If not, then we'll do January.
I don't think it has been canceled. I remember and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I don't remember it being canceled.
And I'm a member.
I would have been so
Okay, he probably
disappointed.
hasn't sent it then that's, I just wanted to avoid confusion, but then we need an agenda.
Yes, we do.
the
We
agenda
need it to be
is?
public, clearly. So we already have general discussion. I like the review of past resolutions and what's the status of those. And also I would like to have Spark High School, Kips Bay High School, whatever, be part of that discussion. Just to gather questions that we have.
Yeah.
Or which we already started.
Okay,
All right, so are you just sort of riffing now, or are you gonna send us like language?
Well, I can clean it up, but I think I just gave you the.
All right.
I'll wordsmith it for you if you want.
Your discussion of,
A general discussion of youth and education for 2025. I know other committees have done that too. We're looking ahead to the year and what we want to prioritize. That would be one.
discussion of any priorities for 2025.
Review, sorry,
Review of
status review of past resolutions from youth and education.
any Spark thing.
Team Center, Spark, what are they doing? What are they,
discussion of educational facilities.
school? And I call it a high school because that's what they have
They
in
said
their
high school.
annual report, but you're telling me it's certainly more than a high school.
No, well, our council member wants the K-3s.
Okay, so it's potentially, got you.
So you want me to invite EC to come to this thing? Or are you guys just gonna formulate?
I want to just invite them because if they show up, that's a win. Sorry, they don't always show up. That was my point. No, I would love them to show up if they are ready to, talk about the school beyond what they've said in a very short report.
And when is the meeting?
It is it is, I guess now, again, on the 28th of this month.
Correct.
Because it may be too short notice, but we can try.
Well, they have over 500 employees. You think you could find one? Sorry.
Two are eligible.
Okay, business affairs and licensing, Anton.
Okay, Sandy mentioned, went to the OCM meeting a few days ago. Two takeaways from that. One, there are an awful lot of frustrated applicants. OCM is very, very slow. And I don't think they have given up strong directions which way the applicant should be going. Anyway, the good thing out of this is that we were in touch with Pascal Bernard, who is a spokesperson for the OCM. And she will be making a presentation at our next meeting. We'll be polling the members of the bulk to submit written questions that we will present or give to her before the meeting. Now, she said very clearly, with all the litigation, she may not be able to give the answers to some questions, but she'll try her best. We had 5 applicants so far for liquor licenses. 3 of them I've waived because they were just normal renewals. 2 of them, there are a lot of questions, and one of them is a boat that parks in the marina next to the parking lot. So we're going to have an interesting discussion because their application was, I would say, at best confusing. And we're going to be contacting, we haven't already contacted the Coast Guard to see if there are any situations with their particular vessel. The last time we did this, there were problems, not only from the Coast Guard, but from the police department of New York City, because they were doing things on the boat they shouldn't have been doing in COVID. Anyway, that's where we stand at the moment. Nothing else.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm just a little confused. So this is the one that we went over a few months ago. The vessel that you were just discussing.
I'm sorry?
I mean, I can bring it up in meeting. I'm confused because I'm on the same committee, but we can talk. I'm confused about the situation you were just talking about.
Of the boat?
Yes,
Yeah, the applicant at that time
yeah,
had been arrested because they had taken the boat out and disregarded all the COVID regulations. This is not the same boat, it's another boat.
I see. Okay.
That's gonna use the marina, that's.
But they use the same marina.
I see.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. If any member of the committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, if there's no objections, we will adjourn the meeting. Seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 7:37 PM.
Sure.